everybody. This is Coco, and I'm putting together a playlist. I've had a lot of questions about these papers, and they're great questions. And if I were a newbie, I'd want to ask these same questions. And of course, any tips I can pass along, that'd be wonderful to shorten your learning curve. And I'm learning as I go, so what I learn, I'll pass along. One of the first things is, what kind of mat am I using? This is a Ken Oliver mat. I believe it's a 16 by 24. I love this. They're about $16 on up. And they also sell larger sizes. They even have some that are almost tabletop size. But I just want you to see how easy this just peels right up. And that is a dry glue solution. Now what I'll do is I'll trim all this off here. And it's pre-distressed, that edge. And I guess I'm off camera. It pre-distresses the edge when I flood paint out to the napkin. This is simply a napkin overlay with some distress oxides and the glue solution. And then I trim this down and I use this to create little bits within here, and being that these have distress oxides on them, they activate in water, so they become like a little watercolor element. So you're going to find I save and reuse and repurpose a lot of stuff. So that's a Ken Oliver mat. However, it was flimsy, as you can see. And once I laid something down, I was stuck. I couldn't move that. So look what we found at the Dollar Tree. Let me flip that around. You get two 11 by 14 chopping mats in here. And these are just perfect. And let me show you. This is one. I still have a little bit of room to go over with excess. And then, of course, I trim that and save all of that. But they're firm. These are easily transportable. And then I have a tray cart that I put all these on. So now I've got lots. I can play with papers. I can make 12 at a go rather than waiting for one to dry. So $1.25. That's a fantastic deal. You may not have a Dollar Tree. I have also used parchment paper. The downside to parchment paper, it's very flimsy. You got a very little space to work with. And sometimes the glue solution does kind of stick. You kind of have to pry it off. And sometimes while you're working on your project, the whole thing shifts. So because it's not very weighted. But in a pinch, what do? Now this is just repurposed wax paper. I use fusible webbing in my sewing projects, and it's a dual glued surface, both sides. So you peel back one side and it reveals a gluey surface that you iron. So I save these big waxy pieces. I've used this too, but again, we're talking flimsy. Once I put it down, I have to leave it there. I have to wait for it to dry before I can create more. So just want to let you know, that's ideas. I've seen people use plastic shopping bags, but I'm going to point you back to the Dollar Tree. You can order online. Now this is another opportunity to consider. This is something that's reinforced with cardboard on the inside, and you could just throw this out. Or you could use this as a work surface. And since I have my Dollar Tree mats, I don't need to dip into this. But if I was in a pinch, I wouldn't hesitate. Okay, so that's it as far as mats. Another question I've had is what kind of papers I use. Now, when I first started doing this, I did it on a watercolor paper. It was extremely stiff. You couldn't really bend it, especially once the glue was on it. But cardstock wasn't too bad. So this is cardstock. And this is a lighter cardstock. Both of those work. My favorite has been linen because you can see through to the other side. And there's beautiful patterns on the other side too. It bleeds through. So I've enjoyed that. This is 34-pound bond paper, and I don't think I did a sample for you. Let me see here. This one might have been a bond paper sample. So it wasn't bad. We still had some bleed through. My linen example, where did that go? Linen is far more pliable. So linen, bond paper. Now I'm even saving the wrapping paper that comes in our packaging. I crinkle it up. I've been trying different things. So I was trying to kind of go for a crinkled leather look. I was trying to do like a leather and a lace. And let me show you what this looks like. I have yet to, normally I distress with something darker on the outside, but I thought I would try opposite. So I just want to show you when I go to pull that off of there, I trim all this off. And like I said, I'm putting together a playlist so that you don't have to watch each and everything over and over again. This is just something to point you to if you have a quick question. And, you know, I highly encourage you to do this stuff with your kids. There are so many things you can do with these papers. Wrap a candle, put a little, you know, paper twine around it, give as a gift. But how cool would it be to let the kids build their own paper? So I might have been a little heavy-handed on my blue, kind of going for a leather and a lace. But as you can see, it's this packaging paper stiffens right up and becomes something easy to fold, sew, and let me get that out of the way. Okay, I'm telling you, I love these mats. I go into beast mode. Now a new one I'm trying is craft paper. And this is kind of a glorified, refined construction paper. It's a little bit bigger dimension than your typical bond paper. So you kind of see the size variation. And I want to show you something I did with it. I was really pleased with how that turned out. It's as loose a pulp as maybe the linen. So anything you put on top, those hibiscus and blueberry teas, come right through the paper. So very pleased with this. And the glue solution makes it nice to work with. So in review, you can use a craft paper. I wouldn't do construction paper. This is much thinner and more refined in its pulp. And then I have 34-pound bond paper, copy paper. I used wrapping paper, linen paper, a lighter cardstock, excuse me, and a heavier cardstock. So that would be your paper. So we're building from the ground up. We have our mats, we have our papers. Now, glues. What do I use for my glue solution? Well, at the Dollar Tree, I got some tacky glue, and I followed a recipe on YouTube. It was so thick, I didn't like it. And I think their ratio was 1 part glue, 1 part water, something like that. Anyway, I keep refining and refining my process, and I've decided to make it as watery as I can because, you know, I just want this like milk. I don't know if you can catch how fluid that is. And I was able to purchase this Amazon Basics from a teacher who bought too much for her school classroom. And I would recommend go to Amazon if you're going to make a lot of papers and get this. I can't tell you how many papers I've made already, but I still have plenty of glue left. And my ratio basically is probably 1/3 glue, 2/3 water, maybe even more. I like it real runny and watery. Now, I'm using a wide throwaway vessel, and it's easy to pour and mix. It could be transferred to a squeeze bottle, but then I think, how would I clean it? So these are just simple things that you can use from your home. These are Dollar Tree spreaders, silicone spreaders. One of the gals on YouTube uses a wide paintbrush, and I think I saw somebody use a synthetic Chinese watercolor brush. So, see what you have at hand, put it to use. And then for the paper toppers, you can use regular tissue paper, or in the case of what I've been doing is I peel napkins and I save any layers. Sometimes they have 1 layer, sometimes they have 2, and in some cases there's 3. I think some of the middle layers are a little less pulpy and easily ripped or shredded, so you have to be mindful of that when you're spreading it. But this is what happens. You simply finish your project and you lay this out like so. Now, if it's on a dollar store mat, it's going to be too big, so you'll have to trim your napkin. But if it's on the Ken Oliver mat, you have all the room you need to make extra, what I call faux flowers, because I like to cut this up and repurpose it in here and let it bloom like little flowers. Okay, so I think we've got basic supplies, and you might want to invest in some trays to put your elements in. I use Chinese takeout trays. They're nice, easy to work with. So this will get you started. All right, so stay tuned. I'm going to be doing another video on all the textures I've been playing with. Some are hits, some are misses. And then I'll do another bona fide video on my channel, start to finish, texture. I'm calling them nature texture papers, because some of mine don't have any nature in them. I'm trying new textures. In fact, I'll give you a little sneak peek. I was inspired by this fabric. It's a gauzy fabric. I thought, gosh, that kind of looks like a Monet. And it made me wonder, could I use remnants of fabric and yarn? And what do you think? Kind of looks Monet-ish. That is the butterfly tee, but look at the back, looks like a watercolor. Is that beautiful? Of course, I would trim all this off here. Okay, stay tuned. Coco's signing out. Happy crafting.